Welcome, my friends, to the show that never ends. That's not entirely true. Next week, we'll do a whole lookout over all the Football League, blah, 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 all the cups, etc. Today is going to be focused on Wycombe Wanderers and yesterday's final. Tomorrow's Monday, so we'll be a couple of that. Put that glare on there. Put that up. Don't want that there. That doesn't help, does it? That. No, there you go. That'll do. I'll keep my head turned this way. Then I don't have to look at Kieran either. What do you think? Yeah, I think that's it. So we're going to be looking at Wycombe Wanderers and the game yesterday and all the stuff, what happened and all our journey up there and our journey back and the overall feel of the day and how Wycombe played and how we didn't win. 2 goals. We've discussed 2 goals before. We've discussed that 2 goals is the average, and it was the average. Shame it wasn't 1-1. It was 2-0 to Sunderland. Okay, let's get on then. Let's get on. There is no music or anything like that. We've got 40 minutes and we'll get this done. Occasionally somebody might ring our doorbell and I'll just press pause, so we'll be straight back. Okay, Kieran. Let's start with team rating, should we, or just the game?
We won't do a rating for players during the game because it's pretty difficult to do that. We'll do a rating for the season at the end.
Okay, a rating for the season. 20 minutes on yesterday's game. Wycombe weren't very good, were they?
We weren't. I think before we should really get into the depths of how we weren't very good, we should also say that, again, we're not supposed to be here. This is unprecedented territory for us. Like, getting to a playoff round, getting to the championship is, again, ridiculous. Maybe slightly more expected this time just because of what we've done before and how good we know our squad can be. But again, we are just little Wycombe and we're hitting above expectations.
Do you think we play off that too much?
No, because I think if you do it for too long, then that's absolutely fine. Then you do rely on it a bit too much. There's a lot of Premier League teams who have been in there for goodness knows how long and then say, oh, we're just little old Crystal Palace or something like that. Whereas it was 9-10 years ago that we nearly went out of the Football League with an awful team. And we've come an awful long way. Like, we've played a season in the Championship. We've played League One football for a long time now. And I think we're doing really, really well considering who we are. Yes, if we still use this as excuse in 10 years' time and we have more funds and everything, then yes, you could say we're using it too much. But I think it's too early to say that we're saying that. Sunderland should be getting promoted to the Championship. Like, that's just a fact.
We said that last week, didn't we? Last week we said Sunderland's aim, at least, is to get to Wembley and win it. That they had to. Ipswich had to. Sheffield Wednesday had to. Wycombe wanted to get in the top 6. And we got to Wembley. Now, what was the negatives? We will deal with the negatives from yesterday. And I'll say to start with that I wish, if we're going to lose, let's lose playing well. We didn't. The truth was, their first goal, well, no, we don't even have to get to the goal before we weren't playing very well. What was wrong?
I mean, the first kick of the game kind of summed up is if the ball obviously gets played back to Tafazola and he's supposed to belt it up towards the right-hand side. He took a poor first touch, dawdled around with it a bit, and then played it back to Stockdale. And you could tell he was nervous. You could tell a lot of people out there were nervous. You imagine that has to explain why Stockdale let in the first goal. because
not good. I thought that was a swerve on that ball, and when you see it from behind, there wasn't, was there? It came straight at him, and there was no reason he shouldn't say that. And in fact, I'm not going to put him down. I have done during this season, but he improved. And in fact, you have to say he got us where we went. I think he was definitely one of the top players this season by the end. So I'm not going to put him down. He wasn't the only one that didn't play great. But the trouble is when the goalkeeper makes an error, it's a goal.
Yeah.
And he made an error, and I feel sorry for him. I do. He'll look at that and he'll know.
Yeah.
Won't he?
I mean, 99 times out of 100, if I'm playing football on a Monday evening, I would save that. It's just the one time that
you think
it was straight at him. It was straight at him. It was in the middle of the goal. I cover
next week.
Goal.
I'm going to film Kieran diving across a full-size goal, saving a ball similar.
He didn't need to dive. This was the thing. It was good height. It was straight at him, and he just let it by him. Yeah, it was just very unfortunate. Everyone just seemed very nervous to begin with.
Why Wycombe nervous?
Well, this was supposed to be the thing that we were known for, and why we got here was experience. And we had Stockdale, Vokes, Jacobson, Stewart's been there before, McCarthy's been there before. There was an awful lot of players who had been there before and had got a lot of experience. Sunderland's had a few, but not near at the caliber of what we had, and we didn't show our strength.
They've got losers,
not necessarily losers, just
Sunderland. I'm talking about
Sunderland in general are. Well, we can't really say that now because we lost them, but
but they weren't they? They were people that had been to Wembley and lost.
Yeah,
that have always almost made it but didn't. Whereas Wycombe had got people that had actually celebrated.
Yeah, it was a surprise. I
don't mean losers, Sunderland. I don't mean Sunderland are losers. Do not quote me on that, please. I didn't mean that like that.
No,
the
people in the team had lost before, kind of thing. I mean, some of our players have lost before as well, but it's different circumstances. I think maybe part of the reason for why they were nervous was because of the crowd in the stadium.
It's worth saying about the crowd, isn't it? Definitely. Yeah. Please, we discussed this when you come home yesterday. Eventually, when we got home, Chiltern Railways, and in fact, it wasn't even their fault. I didn't mind queuing for that length of time, but we have to say, Wembley, bloody sort it out. Goodness sake, if you want to do the World Cup or anything, you're going to have to do a bit better than that. That was shocking. Getting in and leaving was awful. If you don't want crowd trouble, you're asking for it. Yeah. You really are asking for it.
It was pretty bad. The number of people who had tickets.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine the England-Scotland game?
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I wouldn't want to go. I tell you, I'd wear riot gear if I went up there to try and get out of Wembley. I'd wear riot gear. That was awful, Wembley. But anyway, go on.
I can't remember what I was talking. Oh, Sunderland's a lot more fans than us, and you could tell they had this isn't anything against the people who came to support Wycombe or anything, but you could tell that Sunderland had a lot more fans who cared a lot. We had our section kind of in the middle, consisting of the people who sing all the songs, etc., which consisted of maybe about 3,000 or something. They had a good 25,000-30,000 who knew all the songs inside out and were making a lot of noise. And you could tell, obviously, they had more fans, and so they're going to make more noise than us. But they made an awful lot of noise compared to what we did. From what I could tell, you couldn't hear us on the pitch.
I don't think they could hear us.
Any time we were shouting around us, I couldn't even hear us shout because you could just hear the Sunderland
And
fans.
you also have to say, I mean, you know what I think about this. Sorry, but if anybody out there bought one of those bloody 50-50 scarves, so you were standing there half for Sunderland and half for Wycombe, I think that's shocking. Go and buy one afterwards if you want to go for the event. Go and get it afterwards. Don't wear it behind the Wycombe goal, a half Sunderland shirt. I think that's awful. Why not get a sort of, a Wycombe front and a Sunderland back? I don't get that. And I think the amount of kids with their balloons and picnic baskets and things was I'm not going to put that down. I might add, great, all these kids going, great, they might go again. They might start watching Wycombe and stuff. I'm not putting that down. But what I am saying is like you've said, the Sunderland fans had to travel a long way, and those that came were Sunderland fans. All those from Wycombe, it was a day out. Yeah,
a lot of them. Yeah.
You couldn't hear Wycombe fans. You couldn't.
No.
I mean,
that's just the reasoning for it. And
did that add the 12th person? Did it add the 12th person?
Well, I think
they talk about that.
I think we're both big believers in the idea that the crowd makes a huge difference.
Milton Keynes away, 2,000 fans. Wow, we killed that stadium with 2,000 fans, a 30,000 stadium.
Well, half the stadium wasn't full, was it?
We took that stadium. 2,000 people took that stadium.
Yeah,
yesterday.
Wycombe's grounds being quite concealed and having a terrace which makes a lot of noise because of the way it's built, kind of thing. And then the family stand being as big as it is, like it suits us down to the ground. And Wembley does not, because it's big. Like even the pitch was big.
Too big.
Jacobson, bless him, he is 34, 35. And up against their pacey right winger, he
got slaughtered.
He had no chance.
He got slaughtered.
Yeah. And I think the idea from Ainsworth was to have Obita and Jacobson both there so that they could kind of be left backs together and just kind of hold them there. But that didn't work because Obita was kind of concerned about doing some things in an attacking sense. That
he needed to, though, didn't he? I mean, we were relying on him for some of the crosses.
He needed to, and he tried to. But he scores quite a few goals, to be fair to him, but in terms of like taking a man on wing, that's not him. And so maybe having Hanlon on to begin with probably would have been a better call. Having it in hindsight, obviously, because who am I to say? But there was a few things in hindsight that you were like, oh, you should have done that. The Gape was overran in midfield.
Yeah,
I thought it was interesting that he started Gape. I was like, well,
but he started him for all the games that we've actually done all right in the last 10 games.
Yeah,
that's why it was an obvious, nothing wrong with Ainsworth's pick. All right, I would say I looked at that. That well, of course, it picks itself, that team at the moment. I don't think it will next season.
No.
Because I think there's 3 positions at least that need to change. But we'll get onto that in just one moment. We know Vokes, we don't think had a good game. Didn't have a lot though, but it was one of those games, you get your opportunity, you're the player to stick it in the net, and he didn't. He fumbled it, didn't he?
Mm.
He had his two actually. One of those headers, he had a big chance. That is what he's there to do. That is his role. He should be better at sticking those in the net, and he didn't. Talking of not Wycombe, Sunderland, they played bloody well, didn't they?
Yeah, they knew what they were doing. They were very good. They didn't allow us to have that many opportunities. I know we had a few from a mistake here or there. And of course, you didn't get a few opportunities in the cup final. But in all,
We almost had 50% of the ball.
Yeah, which is not what we want, is it?
No. And what did we do?
Not a horrendous amount.
No. I thought they were, what was the name of that player that got man of the match?
Pritchard.
Pritchard. I thought he was excellent. I actually clapped their second goal. I know that was a bit of a Wycombe, by then.
Sure, half an Arsenal.
Yeah, yeah. No, but by then, I'm not cheering. I just thought, yeah, that was good. And it was. And some of their moves, or one-touch football around that box, I thought were excellent. They did stand out as being a far better team.
Every time they went forwards, you were like, oh, gosh.
Yeah. The fact is the best team won.
Yeah.
Would the best team have won had Wycombe turned up?
I mean, they didn't blow us away, per se. It was only 2-0. If the Wycombe we all know and love turned up, then who knows what could have happened.
Yeah. I mean, their first goal they were relying on for so long was a bit lucky.
Yeah.
That was all they scored for 70-odd 75 minutes. They hadn't scored anything else in that 75 minutes, no matter how better they are. Yeah.
The longer it stayed 1-0, the longer you thought, oh, we could do something here. That just didn't turn out to be the case, did it?
No. So apart from Vokes not being great, I mean, is there much more to say about that game, really?
I don't.
Any good players? Anybody stand out for you as having a really good game?
I thought McCarthy did a lot, not necessarily, brilliant in everything he did, but he evidently tried to do a lot. Akinfenwa, when he came on, was very good.
He was.
Like some of his touches from long balls.
Excellent.
Ridiculous.
I mean, that's what we're looking for from Vokes, isn't it?
Yeah. There was an annoying number of things that folks didn't. I obviously don't watch Wycombe week in, week out. I suppose you get used to it.
See, I liked Vokes. I think he's been, one of the players of the season, and that's why I was disappointed, because he didn't do what I've seen game in, game out, and that's what I thought was disappointing.
Yeah.
And Horgan, is it time for Horgan to leave?
Well, I mean, we've been saying in the last 8-10 matches that he's been very good, or has played very decently. So
that was back to his old self.
But McCleary, he wasn't good.
No. He comes and goes in games, doesn't he? I mean, we don't. That's the thing. Is that Division 1 football?
It was
consistency.
Yesterday. It was yesterday.
You don't get consistency in the Premier League, after all. Look at Arsenal.
I mean, again, something you have to kind of remember that Wycombe didn't even win. Did we win half our games this season? I'm not sure we even did. And if you don't even win half the games in the season, then you'll do well to stay up in the Championship, I think.
Right. Well, it was an experience. We've had 3 games under Martin O'Neill at Wembley. We've had 3 games with Ainsworth at Wembley. Admittedly, we couldn't go to one of them, which was a really big one. But most teams don't get that. And I think we should be grateful for the history of Wycombe over the last sort of 30 years. We've got a good team, and I think we've got to remember we've got a good manager. I think and people can put him down, but we've said before, have a look at all the managers we've had between Martin O'Neill and Gareth Ainsworth, and if you want one of them, well, that's up to you. I don't. And I have to also, to finish this bit, for the first time for a long time, I would say I would have the opposition's manager. I think he's great, their manager.
I would have backed you to say before that he was rubbish. I reckon in a previous video you can find that you said he's rubbish. I don't know if you have, but
really, all right, because
he got relegated with Norwich, and you were like, "Oh, he's done nothing but lose." kind of thing.
Oh, really? But there you go. That's how football changes, isn't it? Listen to one week and it'll be completely different next week. I'll be saying how brilliant all these players are and they never make mistakes. Sunderland are rubbish, should never have gone up. We were a far better team. Indeed. That's probably why when you write something or put something, everybody disagrees. Okay. Write what you thought about Wycombe, by the way. We're now going to do, I don't know how long we've got left. It will tell us when we've got 10 minutes.
We can skip through if we have to.
We can skip through if we have to. We're now going to give the player ratings for the season. We've got to try and get yesterday out of our head. Otherwise, they'll all be getting sort of 2.3 or something. So we're going to give this a go and get yesterday out of our head. I'll try and think of Milton Keynes. I'll try and think of the 3-3 against Sunderland, which was entertaining. I'll try and remember some of those games. Good ones and bad ones, and get an overall. Off we go. Let's start.
So we'll go from goalkeeper to striker. We'll start with Stockdale. He won the Golden Glove for the league. He got the most clean sheets, which has to be something.
We're rating them on Division 1 footballers.
Yeah. There's been, I feel like a number of goals. There was, towards the beginning of the season at least, there was a number of goals which we were like, should also have saved that, or someone from before would have saved that kind of thing. But then in the second half of the season, he was a lot better, I think, especially in the last kind of push for us to get in the playoffs. So could he? I suppose you could argue. The way you could argue it is, could he be improved upon? Like, could he be someone that we could be looking to push for a goalkeeper spot? Maybe, if we've got the money and we really want to. I'm not sure Ainsworth does. I think he likes Stockdale. I'd probably give him a 6.5 for the season. 6.57. If we're saying like 6 is kind of like
we're covering the season is the thing, not the last 5 games. Remember that, everybody, because I used to stick the boot in to Stockdale because of the number of goals he cost us with just putting his hands behind the ball and it dribbling out into the 6-yard box. And I haven't forgotten them, but I also remember the great saves he's also made that have saved us. Therefore, it's not a clear, 9.5, and it's not a clear 3. No. And so I would actually agree with that. I'd give him a 7, because I would say the plus is that he's improved, not got worse. If he'd saved us at the beginning of the season and cocked him up at the end, apart from yesterday, then maybe I would have put it down rather than up. But I'll give him a 7. I wouldn't replace him either, judging by what else I've seen in this football league.
True. Didn't think their goalkeeper yesterday was pretty comfortable.
No.
Defenders, we're going on to Jack Grimmer. Hasn't played a lot.
He hasn't got into this team now, has he?
No, McCarthy's kind of taken over from him. I mean, Grimmer was the one who was supposed to replace McCarthy, but McCarthy's kind of taken his place back. Difficult to say. I don't think I've actually watched him this season, Grimmer. And if he hasn't played a lot of games, then it is difficult to say.
Well, I'd give him something like a 4.5.
Apparently he's played 30 games this season.
Has he? Because I'll tell you why. Because he drives me mad. Because, again, yesterday, everyone was saying, close him up, get close to him, get close. And, of course, the goal, of course they should have got at least in front of the guy, letting him run from his own half all the way through and bang it in the net straight. But Grimmer always leaves so much room. I think McCarthy does as well, but Grimmer leaves just so much room. He's so far away, they feel like they're out there on their own. And he drives me mad. So no, he doesn't get. What did I say?
5.
No,
4.5.
4.5. I'm not giving him 5. No, I wouldn't play him.
Jacobson. When our system works, then we kind of get our 2-0, 2-1 wins kind of thing. He stands out as being one of the better players. When we play teams like Sunderland or Wigan or something, they do tend to go for him because he is one-on-one defending. He is a little bit suspect. In that he does leave quite a lot. Well, he leaves too much space.
He's slow.
He's a little bit slow.
If he got too close, they tap the ball to the left or right and they're gone.
Yeah. He still contributed a number of goals, a number of assists kind of thing. So that's absolutely fine. He's still got 10 assists and 4 goals this season, which, for a left back is still very good in this league.
Yeah.
He hasn't been like one of our top players, but he's still been very decent. I think he has been better than Stockdale, so I'd probably give him 7.5.
Yeah, I'd do the same, but I've got a sneaking suspicion if we do this next year, he'd be getting a 5, 5.5.
Yeah.
I think his time at Wycombe is now the bench. I don't think I'd get rid of him quite. I think he's always worth having. He fights like mad and he shoves his body in front of that ball like no tomorrow. He's saved Wycombe this season, and he has. But like you say, I think if they've got a right winger, he's shot.
Yeah.
And now that he's playing Obita in front of him to protect him. If you took Obita away, and when he took Obita off and put Hanlon on yesterday, I talked to the guy sitting next to me saying, that's all there is that side now. And sure enough, the first thing they did was run around there, got past Jacobson and took a shot. I think he can't do it on his own anymore, and I think that's dodgy.
But he has been quite good
this season.
When it works.
It's been enough against teams like Wimbledon.
Yeah, he is 34, 35, yeah. So I mean, as all players will.
His talent can beat Wimbledon, but it can't beat Sunderland.
No. Stewart, from when I've watched him, he doesn't seem quite himself. He does a few things where you're like, why have you done that for then? He's still been relatively solid. He doesn't make any glaring errors, particularly that have led to goals. There's just a few things where you're like, could have done something about that. I
think he's
won 63% of his tackles. He's won 59% of headers.
I'm happy with him. He'd stay in my team next season.
I give him. I want to say. I think we may have rated Stockdale a bit too high potentially.
I gave Stockdale a 7.
I don't think Stewart's a 7. But I don't think he's been worse than Stockdale.
I'd give him a 7, you see.
Give him a 7.
Yeah, maybe even a little bit higher, 7.5. I like him being in the team. I do hold my breath. He does have the occasional game where you think, oh, for goodness sake, hurry up, you're going to get caught. But he's reliable. He's fine in that team. If he's missing and somebody else is in, I think, there's a little gap. No, he'd be in my team next year. I wouldn't replace him.
You've watched him more than me, so I give him a 7.
Yeah. I'm happy with him being in it.
Potential for player of the season, in my opinion, Tapazoli.
He's been brilliant. And as the season's moved on, we've said before who I rate the 2 best players this season has been him and Vokes. So he would get an 8. From me. I like him. I like seeing him on the pitch totally reliable. I was worried with VAR that it'd get done and sent off yesterday, because sometimes he does push his weight around a bit, but I'm happy with that. This is Wycombe. We're dirty, aren't we? Who got the yellow card? Wasn't it their players? Yeah, but anyway, no, I like Tafazoli. I think he's brilliant.
I'd potentially give him an 8.
Yeah, I'll give him an 8.
Obita.
Yeah, like Obita, he's useful because he can play left back in front of the left back. His crosses are excellent. How many goals and assists has he done? It's quite a decent amount, isn't it?
7 assists and 5 goals.
Yeah. He's a good crosser of the ball. He wasn't all the time. He's improved. I like Obita.
Played 52 times this season. He's ever present.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd give him 7.5.
I'd give him at least a 7. Yeah, I like Obita.
McCarthy.
Depends what system you're playing, you see. As a right back, I think he's a little bit... Can't seem to get fullbacks, great fullbacks. But I think in front, getting over that halfway line, he is very good. I mean, he supplied most of it yesterday, didn't he?
Mm.
It depends what you're voting for him, what you're giving him the points for. If I gave him points for a right back, I'd give him a 5. If I gave him points for what he does on that side, up the side, getting in front, I'd give him a 7.7. 7.2. They can't do that, can he? I think he's useful.
I'd give him a 7.
Yeah, I think he's useful, but I wish we'd got a better right back.
Farino. For whenever I watched him, I thought he was not great. He's a young centre back who just hoofed the ball every single time and did not care where it went.
I've seen him play one good game.
Then apparently there was a game where he was unbelievable.
Yeah, I've seen him play one good game. But on that basis, I give him a 5.5.
Yeah. As a backup centre back.
And you can only hope that if he improves, gets the time to improve, he could be the one that replaces Stewart.
Mm.
And fascinated to listen to Tafazoli's YouTube channel, where he's got his mic underneath and he's shouting at this guy how to play football. Very interesting, and he seemed to do what he was told.
Midfielders now. Gape been injured the whole season, and when he's come into the team, you can't help but think he's just a little bit slow and it does a little bit less than what Scowen does. They're two very similar players in what they're supposed to do, and Scowen just does it a little bit better.
I'd give him a 5.
Yeah.
I think he's finished. I think he's a replacement job over the summer. I'm going to get 1 or 2 comments about these comments, maybe, but I really think that brick in that middle is Wycombe depend on those, and I don't think you can depend on Gape.
Yeah, he's a bit like he always got injured. Sturridge always got injured, and he's just not reliable. Even when he comes back to the team, unfortunately. I really liked him, like back in 20. Yeah.
I'm not putting him down for whatever. It is his injuries. He's weak. He's a weak point.
Yeah.
We need another tough midfield player to replace him.
Wheeler. He has not played much. Oh, he's played 30. Yeah,
he keeps coming on as sub for 10 minutes. Yeah. He's on there to head the ball, basically.
Yeah,
I'd be fascinated to have him in instead of Gape. I'd be interested.
Well, he played an awful lot in the Championship for us.
He did.
And the season before, but he's barely played at all this season. You do wonder why, because his heading was very good.
Yeah, which is something in that position
We don't
would
really
be
have.
interesting.
Hmm.
I'd be interested to try him out. I don't know is the answer.
It's difficult to judge him on the season because he barely played.
He comes on to defend mainly.
Yeah.
But I know that's what those two are for. But they're also there to create, aren't they?
Mm.
And get it moving. And I'd be interested to see what Wheeler can do. Difficult to judge him though. I'm not going to give him a score. I'm not going to give him a points value. I do not know. He hasn't had a chance. No. He needs a chance.
Thompson played a lot towards the start of the season.
Why isn't he around anymore?
You do wonder. He must be injured. I'm assuming anyway. He's.
You know what I think about Thompson?
Yeah,
I'm a bit. People think I'm really nasty. I'm not a fan of his. I think he's too slow, and I think he then just hacks the player over and gives them all free kicks. I like his attitude to the game. I like his enthusiasm. I like him getting in there like he does, but he gets left behind the player. He gets turned, and then he hacks them. His attacking, sort of going forward, running with, he loses the ball a lot, but when it comes off and it looks great.
Yeah.
But can we risk when it doesn't come off?
Not hugely.
I'm going to give him a 5.5, but I also think it's time for him.
I'd say 6.5. I don't think it's been that bad.
Okay.
Then we have, what if that doesn't count? Wing.
What I've seen, he looks like he could be a promise, but he hasn't really. He hasn't really done it yet. I'll give him a 6. I don't know. He's done a bit. He looks interesting. You think something could happen.
Mm.
I'll give him a 6. I think he could be, but he needs a go at it. He shouldn't have got sent. He shouldn't have got sent off like he did. That was daft, and he sort of cut himself out of the game for doing that.
Mm.
Daft. That was daft.
I think he's only on loan as well, so it doesn't really.
Okay.
McCleary. There's games where he is the best player on the pitch by a mile.
Yeah. He's second in our goal scoring rate and creates a lot of chances. He can be really exciting. He goes down that right. He brings the ball into the left. He can cross the ball, and then he can not be on the football pitch.
Yeah. Again,
is that his age?
Potentially. I think it's probably less that. I think it's probably more the style of game in which it is. Like yesterday, he did not shine whatsoever. He didn't have an opportunity to. When we play a bit more counter-attacking, and when he gets the ball in that situation, then he is better. A lot of his goals have been on counter-attacks this season. He is our second top scorer, and from when I've seen him play, he's always been very decent. So I'd probably give him an 8.
Yeah, I'd give him I was going to say a 7.58. Shame he can't do it all the time. That'd be something else if he could do it every time. But I don't know. It's Division 1 football.
Yeah.
Be fair to the guy. If he was that good and he did that every game, he wouldn't be playing for Wycombe.
True. Horgan.
He's like McCleary, except he does it less.
Yeah.
He looks like he could, but it's so few times, and he can't shoot.
This season he's got 6 assists and 1 goal.
1 goal.
And there have been times where he's played very well, but at the end of the day, he's supposed to be our Coutinho or De Bruyne kind of figure, and he does not get enough goals or assists.
No, I would sell him. I'm sure there are better players than him out there in that position. He would be one of mine to go. I would actually give him a 4.5 because he cost Wycombe quite a bit. We were expecting quite a bit. He actually is an international footballer and he hasn't produced.
No.
I know he's had a couple of good games. That's not enough.
Mehmeti.
He troubles me a little bit.
He's another one of Ainsworth's that's put him in the dungeon for months on end and not see him. Well, where was he yesterday?
He's injured, isn't he?
Well, we don't
Has he
know.
come back? Because they did say he was going to be ready for the game, but I don't think he might be. I don't know.
Oh, he was a sort of player that we may well have needed yesterday. Ainsworth does do this a couple of times where players do just go missing. From when I saw him, he looked like he'd do something. He wouldn't necessarily always score or always get an assist, but he looked like he'd do something. And to say that in this division and in our team, I think actually says quite a decent amount. Like if McCleary could go missing in the game. Mehmeti wouldn't go missing. He just should score or should get an assist at a certain point.
See, I don't think Mehmeti is necessarily a starting in the starting lineup because of the way we can play. I think Mehmeti is by half time, if it ain't happening, he's the one that can come on and light the game up.
Yeah.
When we need it. He's the one that can swap with Mehmeti swap with McCleary to get it going when he's not playing well, or Horgan. I'd rather him on the pitch than Horgan.
Yeah.
Every day of the week. I think because his enthusiasm and stuff, I mean, that just brightens things up. I think it's not every game, but there's certainly been quite a few we could have done with him on the pitch just to kick ass, you know. Yeah.
But unfortunately, because of how many times he played the season and all that sort of thing, 6.5. We haven't seen him in goodness knows how long.
Only one of his goals have made a blind bit of difference. Is that right? He's hardly scored anything. But then he hasn't played. I mean, give the poor guy a chance.
In that game against Plymouth, he tore them to shreds, didn't he?
He did. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I agree. 6.5, maybe a 6. You can't give him much more than that. No. And that isn't his fault. That's because he hasn't played.
Yeah. But we do know what he can do.
Yeah.
Scowen, I think he's been very good.
8.5. He's been there, hasn't he?
Yeah. He just breaks things up like no tomorrow, doesn't he?
He's done. Can't think of what else other than be tall.
It's not really his fault.
Maybe he wouldn't get quite between everybody's knees if he was tall.
No,
but he does seem to manage to not get sent off with making certain tackles, because he does make those tackles clean. How, I don't know, but he does, and he doesn't get injured very often.
For his role in the team, he's nearly perfect.
He's got to be so important to Ainsworth.
Yeah.
Because that's how the team work.
I think I've watched a slight thing from Sunderland fans talking about Wycombe and them saying, I can't believe Scowen's one of their better players in midfield. Because you can tell that he's not going to be the, like centre mid who passes the ball around and runs the game kind of thing. He is going to be your CDM who just breaks everything up. Yeah,
he stops everything they're doing. They don't go. He stops them coming through the midfield.
Yeah, I'd say just for how often he's done it this season, he's pretty much played every game. I'd give him an 8.5.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, 8.5.
Vokes.
Well, I think get yesterday out of my head. Got to get yesterday out of my head, and I'd give him 8.5. I think he's had a great season. It must be difficult doing his job. It's not the easiest job, and he's certainly put them away. 17 goals this season. What else do you want?
Yeah.
How many assists? Quite a few, so he's not just on
17 goals, 7 assists in 50 games.
So what else? What else are you expecting?
Yeah. No, he's been very decent.
Signed for another year. Yeah.
Kai. You haven't seen the horrendous amount.
No, that's almost a shame because he's same as Mehmeti. You wish you'd see more of him. I mean, I know you can't keep swapping and changing, but I think there's been times when
I think he played with Hanlon in that 5-5 game with Cheltenham, and them two were unbelievable. I think. And it's just times like those where you're like, where is he? It's difficult to again give him a rating.
How do you give him a rating? Well, you can't, can you? You haven't seen enough of him to be able to give him a rating at all.
I'd just say no, not really, actually. But maybe he's played 22 times apparently.
Has he really? Maybe for 5 minutes.
Maybe in the first half of the season. I don't remember seeing him in goodness knows how long. So 5.5, 6, something like that.
Can't be many more.
Hanlon. He has. There's a lot of games where you're like, oh, this game's crying out for Hanlon, and then you bring him on, he doesn't do a lot.
Or he does what he did yesterday.
And
a miss.
Yeah, he had a good opportunity, didn't he? It was just a bit wet. But even though there's quite a lot of hype around him, I'm a little bit disappointed with how good he's been. So we did buy him.
I'm gonna give him a 6 because so few times has he come on, and he does.
He's got 8 goals and 6 assists in 43 games, which for our second striker.
Yeah, you want a bit more out of him.
Yeah.
He just misses. If he could get a few more on those on target, but he needs to go at it. Again, this is I don't know what you got to do, really. We've not had this problem before where you've got too many players sat on the bench. We've not really had this problem before. And Ainsworth is going with the same team week in, week out. One player gets injured, he brings the next one in, and the other one won't get in because it'll stick with the same player week in, week out. And you're thinking, well, it's a shame he don't get a chance. But why would you give him a chance if you're winning?
Is it suggestive that he doesn't know his best team? Because if you know your best team, you know that when someone comes back from injury, they're probably going to get back in. Maybe. But I mean, it's difficult to have your best team when you're in League 1 or League 2 because players aren't as consistent as they are in the higher leagues. But
trouble is when we're not,
you should have an idea.
Yeah, and you need a chance. I mean, you get to half time, and if so and so isn't working, I think swap them. We've got a good enough team. Swap them, And if they're worried about getting a place, they'll come on and bloody well go for it. Don't give them 10 minutes. I mean, Hanlon come on yesterday. He had that one shot that was weak, but he only had that one go at it because it was the last 10 minutes and Sunderland had no intention of giving us the ball and just kept kicking it out and stuff. And he never got a chance, really. Although saying that, let's move on to the next one. Or have we given Hanlon points yet?
I think you said 6.
Right.
It's probably about right. Last but not least, and for the last time, Akinfenwa. It's again a little bit difficult. He's played 39 games.
I'll give him a 3.
They played 39 games, but only 792 minutes, which is actually not a lot whatsoever for 39 games.
Yeah,
But
this is for this season, by the way, everybody. Not for last year, the year before that. This is this season, all right?
He has scored 6 goals.
He
so
has.
he's got about a goal every 110 minutes, which is actually quite
Very good. Yeah. And remember, he's hurting when he comes onto the football pitch. He's in pain when he comes onto that football pitch.
I think for a 40-year-old,
7.5.
yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to give him man of the season, but he certainly makes change, and the quality the guy's got, the skill he's got in taking that ball down and stuff.
His touches yesterday were ridiculous.
Yeah,
you should not be able to do that.
If he could run, you know,
yeah, we'll give him a 7.
Yeah, if he could run, he wouldn't be playing for Wycombe.
He's not going to play for everyone now.
No, I know, but he wouldn't have done this season.
No.
If he could have run in no pain, he wouldn't be playing for Wycombe.
No.
Brilliant. Thank you, Akinfenwa. You've been a star.
Yeah.
And that's a fact.
Well, I mean, for me personally, he's like one of my top 5 Wycombe players that I've seen. Yeah, he's been surreal.
Yeah.
Considering
well.
when he came at the end of his career.
Yeah. I mean, people talk about his character. Take his character away, and you have still got a brilliant footballer.
Yeah.
I mean, they do talk about his character a lot, but so his character, football, brilliant.
Should we give a manager rating as well?
Yeah, let's give a manager rating. I don't want him to leave.
No, absolutely not. He's taken us to a playoff final, which, you know,
Championship, playoff final. Yeah, this season.
We played Man City earlier this year, which everyone forgets about. To get battered, but I mean, it doesn't.
What do you expect?
And for those reasons, you would give him a 10. But he does have these times where you make a few decisions. You're like, what's he done that for then? And he does have players in the dungeon for about 2 months sometimes,
which is really frustrating. He doesn't tell the fans what he's doing and why.
No.
You don't often hear the fans singing his name either, which is a bit of a disappointment.
No.
I think he's got character as well.
He suits Wycombe down to the ground.
He does.
I'd give him an 8.5.
Yeah, yeah, I'd agree with that. 8.5, 9, and for the same reasons, he wouldn't get 10, as you say. That I think he could do with giving us a bit more information about the players and why they're not playing. Yeah, and like you say, he does take players out and leave them, and we never hear of them again.
They don't really do press conferences, do they?
No.
Managers down there.
No, it was shame. Shame.
But
But there you go. He's got a bus named after him in Wycombe. I'm sure he's happy. And so we're going to give that. That's it for us this week. Next week we will put my hair back in a ponytail. Kieran will be back in Portsmouth, and we will talk about football in general, Liverpool in their cup.
Yeah, I'll either be crying or in tears of happiness.
Could have won the 4 by then because they're playing this afternoon. You'll know this when you hear this tomorrow or whenever you listen. We will also be bringing out sort of a football in general thing. Then after that, about whenever it's needed, once every 3 weeks or so over the summer, until we get to the new season and start again in which division? Division 1, not the Championship. That's right, Division 1. And what are we hoping for next year?
First.
Really? Right. Playoffs again.
Playoffs.
Playoffs again. We're hoping for playoffs again. It'd be nice to go back to Wembley. What would you do different? And that is hard.
Get a different train.
Yeah, not up there, back.
Yeah, you organise a meal out or something else.
Yeah, although they did have trouble, a load of my friends, getting a meal out. They had almost as long to wait for a meal as it was to get a train. Pizza.
So,
Well, they just about managed to get their food before we got our trains. So I don't know what you do about that. Maybe you have to just walk further.
well, I mean, we thought to go to Marlow and then go out with it again.
A lot of people thought that. I don't know whether that worked. If you did that, then tell us, please, ready for next year. And with that, Kieran, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
And I'll say goodbye. Goodbye.